So we got Paul. Paul, welcome. He's coming all the way from the US. And he's going to talk to us about wine and how does wine and Web3 go together.
Thanks, Annie. How's the sound of the audio? Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. As Annie said, this was a big trip, and to be honest, I was a little reluctant to come because I don't like traveling. We got COVID, it's getting into the holidays, but this has been amazing, fantastic conference. You guys are doing a great job, Anni, Jon, everybody, and of course, Greece is amazing, and I just want to say, like, the talent in Greece is incredible. I knew this, but coming here is like a great reminder. So thank you for having me, and thank you for being so awesome.
Well, thank you for coming all the way. So apparently, you're doing wine and Web3, but you've been to Greece many times, and wine and Web3 already have a connection with Greece, right? So maybe you can tell us like the story from where it all started and how it is connected with Greeks.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm not a wine expert. I've never worked in the wine industry. I spent my career in technology, startups, and product development is kind of my area of expertise. I've worked in Web3 on and off for the past 5 years, kind of following the boom and the bust. I was doing some Web3 projects back in 2017, and then we had a crash, and then I decided Web3 is like over, and now it came back 2 years ago, and maybe it's over again, we don't know. I don't think so. But I started this project about 1.5 years ago. The way it started was I was approached by a winery, some people who own a winery in California. And I was doing consulting at the time, and they wanted to figure out a way to do something with the winery that involved the blockchain. And they had some ideas, I had some ideas, some of them were crazy. Like one of them was like to create a metaverse, a winemaking simulation in the metaverse. It's not a crazy idea, but it turned out to be something that would have been very expensive. And when the metaverse business model started to crash, I don't want to say metaverse as a concept is by any means crashing, but the metaverse business model, like the Sandbox and Decentraland, if you follow any of those projects, they're not doing very well business-wise. So anyway, the expense of doing a winemaking simulation in the metaverse and the fact that the economy for metaverses was sort of going downhill caused us to pivot in our thinking. Anyway, eventually we came up with a concept which maybe I'll tell you guys about it at some point, but that's how it started. I was consulting with this winery, and eventually we got to a concept that we thought was really great, and I decided to join them full time. We formed a company, and I'm leading this company, and we're going to launch in the spring. Yeah.
Well, success. But wine is a very physical product. I'm a big wine lover. I drink a lot of wine, white, rosé, red, and well, his favorite wine is Retsina, apparently.
Guys, I know, don't make fun of me, but I'm from America, okay?
But how does a very physical product like wine get in the metaverse?
Okay.
How would you combine these two?
Yeah, okay, so the basic problem we're solving is the fact that wine, at least in the US, it's very elitist. I think in Europe it's a little different. People grow up with wine, your uncle has a vineyard, but in the US, wine is like this distant thing that is for rich people, and it's very confusing because the terminology is confusing. It's often French, and it feels intimidating, right? So we started from that premise. How can we use the blockchain to make wine more democratic? Hey, that's something Greece is really good at, right? Anyway, democracy. So what we're doing is we're giving people the chance to learn what it's like to own a vineyard and participate in the winemaking process. And the way it works is you get an NFT at the beginning of the winemaking season. Usually it starts in the spring when the vineyard is like coming back to life. So you'll buy this NFT at the beginning of the season, and we call it a season pass. And the NFT gives you access to an experience for one season. We call it the wine grower experience. And what is that? Well, it involves basically owning a vine for a season. You see it on a map. We're building a dashboard with a map. You'll see where your vine is on the map. And you get all sorts of data feeds from the vineyard telling you conditions on the ground, like what is the temperature, what is the humidity. You'll see images of the vineyard. If we have enough cameras, maybe you'll even see the images of your individual vine. And that vine is something that you help nurture throughout the season. And how do you do that? There's a voting mechanism. So this is inspired by the on-chain governance that you see in DAOs. And so the way the voting works is there's a winemaker in the vineyard, an actual person. He has to make decisions about different things during the season, like do we water the vines this week? Do we prune them? Do we harvest them? So like every week you're going to get a notification and you'll see something that you have to vote on. Like for example, should we harvest the vines this week? Harvest the grapes this week, or should we wait another 2 weeks? And if you don't have the answer, it's okay. We're going to have some content, some tutorial videos that will help you understand the trade-offs. And then you vote, and you're voting with the rest of your community because the vineyard has thousands of vines. So hopefully, we have thousands of people participating in this experience. And the decision with the most votes is then executed by the winemaker. And over the course of the season, as these decisions compound, as they get made, you're creating a certain style of wine that's unique. It's completely unique to the decisions that you made with the rest of your community. And eventually you get to taste that wine. We'll send you a bottle.
Okay, that's interesting. So I can grow my own wine without doing all the hard work.
All the hard work, you don't have to buy a vineyard, you don't have to know anything. We teach you everything.
Okay, so that means that I, together with a few other people, we buy a vine. This probably looks big, right? And then we decide on decisions like when to harvest, how much to water, I don't know, if we're going to use pesticide or not. Do we have to reach some consensus? So if I have a bigger stake, for example, than the rest of the team, am I the one deciding, or how does it work?
So every NFT that you own gives you one vote. Okay, so you could buy 10 if you want, and you'd have more voting power than me if I have one. The consensus is going to be interesting. Like, we hope that as people make decisions about what to vote, they're going to consult their community. So there'll be either Discord or some sort of custom community app within our app, like where you can discuss all of these decisions with the people who own the vines, who have the NFTs alongside you. So one other thing I'll add is there's a competition that we're building into this, which is, it works like this. The vineyard is divided up into blocks. I think we'll have 6 blocks. Each block is about 2,000 or 3,000 NFTs, or 2,000 or 3,000 vines. The blocks will have their own separate voting mechanism. So, if Annie's in block 1 and I'm in block 2, she could be voting in a completely different way from me and my team. It's essentially like a team that I'm playing on. And those decisions will influence the outcome of our wines. Hers could be very sweet, mine could be very dry. And at the end of the season, we're going to have an expert judging competition. We'll have experts come in and they'll do a blind tasting of her wine versus my wine. And if she wins, she'll get some sort of reward. We haven't figured it out yet. So we want, going back to consensus and community, we're building in this competition because we want each of the blogs to feel like a team, and hopefully that creates more of a community engagement because they want to win the competition.
That's great, and that gives a lot of power to everybody, like growing their own wine, democratizing winemaking, and tokenizing it, and everybody can be involved. But you make an assumption that people are going to be interested in reading and learning about how to grow wine. How is my wine protected by your bad decisions as a fellow NFT owner?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in season 1, we're trying to create what I call guardrails. Like if you're driving down the road, you have these rails on the side of the road so you can't go over a cliff. So the guardrails in Wine Grower will basically mean that the 2 or 3 decisions or the choices that you make when you're voting none of them result in bad wine, but they'll result in a different style of wine. And maybe in another season, as this thing grows, we'll give more freedom to the users. But at first, we want to keep them on a short leash because we don't know what's going to happen.
So, and at the end of the year, you're going to be sending me or anybody else who buys an NFT a bottle of wine or a quantity of wine, right?
Yeah.
So everybody can taste their own wine in the end.
You get 1 bottle for every NFT you own. If you live outside the US, we might charge you. We're going to have to charge you extra for shipping, but we'll get you the wine. Yeah.
Okay, are you going to also implement any algorithms for gamification, like different teams or different blocks of wines playing with different styles of wine or algorithms or, incentivization?
Yes, but we don't know what they are yet. I'm assuming that we're going to have all sorts of interesting data to play around with and algorithms we can build to create engagement and make it more fun, but yeah, we haven't figured it out. If you have ideas, please let me know.
Oh, we got a question there.
Yeah, please.
Let's say that 50% or a very close percent, the same group, the same part of the process, they decide 50% to have one choice, and the other 50% have another choice. Then for certain, of course, this is a part of the production process. But if that choice would be possible to just simply physically separate the part of the wine growing process and say that these finds are going to be dealt with in that sense, like forking works when you get to different modes of the process. And then the other part, because they have voted, they can join the other process, and then we can see at the end what happened with the one.
Yeah, that could work. There's one limitation, which is it's expensive to separate the grapes into different lines of production. So the way we're thinking about the economics is each block goes into its own production line. So 3,000 lines are put into their own kind of barrel. Like you can choose a glass barrel, an oak barrel, the type of yeast that's used for fermentation, the temperature of the fermentation. There are many variables that you can configure for a particular batch of grapes. So if we divide them up, like you're saying, it gets more expensive, but maybe it's worth it. That makes sense. Yeah.
Last thing, if certain things.
Celebrate your doom.
Production phase.
Yeah.
You get vinegar instead of wine.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, let's avoid that. Yeah.
Try some vinegar. You created this vinegar. We got one more question there.
Are you gonna have any kind of incentive for people to get involved in the process by the way of like kickbacks of the state of these wines, or so they're more aware and try to make better decisions in order to get good wine and then they have sales, they have some feedback.
Yeah, we would love to do that, and we've explored ways of doing it. Here's the problem. In the US, at least, there are regulations that may prevent us from sharing revenue with the NFT holders. Like, no one's really tested this yet, but based on some prior cases that went to some very high court in the US, it's probably the case that if an NFT holder is getting like a share of revenue, then that NFT would be viewed as a security, which means you have to register it with the Securities and Exchange Commission. You have to hire lawyers to do that, and it also limits the way that you can sell the NFT. It gets very crazy. Now, my hope is that the regulations in the US are issued like, this is like the Wild West. No one knows what's legal or not. If there are regulations coming soon, then hopefully we can do things like this. Not worried about some unknown legal risk.
Maybe that's I'm not sure. What is the value of the NFT to increase based on the success or
Yes, so that's exactly what we're trying to do. So that's what we call market-driven incentive. It won't, we can't increase the value by just saying, it's more valuable. We have to get people who are buying the NFT on the secondary market to perceive greater value. How do we do that? I haven't figured it out yet, but we're like, this is exactly what we're trying to figure out. One way to do it is to offer more wine. So instead of paying people with cash for the productivity or the quality of the wine, we can give them more wine. That probably wouldn't be considered a violation of the law. So yeah, we're playing around with those ideas. And again, if anybody has any suggestions, please get in touch with me. Yeah.
Suggestion, you could use the NFT just as a subscription service where you would do regular drops, and then the NFT on its own would have a certain value connected to it. But since airdrops are kind of random and you don't need to register them, you could probably, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not advising anything, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Second, my question is, why is this whole thing a Web3 project? Like, couldn't you just do the same thing in Web2 and have people involved that and buy a subscription of like a film of the process and have like a Google form sent out every week and collect the data and just do it?
Absolutely, great question. And sometimes I wish it was just a Web2 project, because building stuff in Web3 is really hard right now. The tools are primitive, and the blockchains are slow, and the market, is small. And the number of people who have crypto, it's a lot smaller than people who have credit cards. Okay, so why are we doing this on Web3? Or let me answer it in another way. Why is this interesting for Web3? What are we doing that you can't do on Web2? Okay, so I'll talk about some of that stuff. So think about this NFT that I'm describing as having like two parts to it. Part one is the season pass, which expires after one season. It's sort of like buying a concert ticket or a ticket to a football game, right? Gets you in for a certain period of time. But we're also building in what we call persistent benefits into the NFT. So even after the season expires, you're going to have some bundle of benefits, and we're using a concept of reward points to sort of create value there. So let me give you an example. After the season is over, you've had a good time, you still have your NFT, that NFT may have, let's say, 50 reward points in it. And those reward points can be used by you, or if you want to sell the NFT on the secondary market, the person who buys it can use those reward points. What can they use them for? So we're going to have a store, so to speak, virtual store, e-commerce experience, where you can exchange the reward points for either more wine, merchandise, or in-person experiences at our winery. So like maybe 50 reward points, gets you a private tour of the winery. Maybe 100 reward points gets you like a dinner with your friends at the winery. So why are we doing this, and how does that answer your question? Okay, so the goal is to create a secondary market for these NFTs so that we can achieve a couple of goals. One is we can make royalties on the sale of these, the secondary sale of these NFTs, which is good for our business. It also means that the buyers have an incentive to participate in the community. We're trying to create a sense of ownership here that lasts beyond the season. So if you buy one of our NFTs, even though you have to pay again to experience another season, well, you're still an owner because you have these persistent benefits. And maybe you're going to exchange or use the reward points, or maybe you're going to sell it, and which makes you feel like an owner. We hope that's the theory. And the other benefit here that I think Web3 gives us is transparency. Like, we want to use this it's a very powerful concept you have in Web3, like where every transaction is publicly available on a blockchain, right? And so we want people to go to our page on OpenSea and see where the NFTs are being traded. We want the people to see what the average sale price is. We want people to see how often they're being traded, what the floor price is, right? So that everybody has a sense of the health of this project. So it's kind of a hybrid, right? Web 2, Web 3. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess another question is about the centralization of decisions, and these are more like decentralized decisions that you could do traditionally, but I don't think you can do it in such a good way with Google Forms and the very traditional Web 2 forms. I also wanted to ask, which kind of blockchain are you using for the NFT, or what are you planning to use?
Yeah, so the NFT itself is going to be Ethereum, but we're also using on-chain governance for the voting decisions, right? So we're using Polygon for that because it's cheaper and faster. And there's another sort of maybe Web3 benefit there. I mean, to me, this is a little bit like, it's maybe hype, but every one of the decisions that is made in the production of the wine is going to be on the Polygon blockchain, right? Or eventually, Polygon is written back to Ethereum, right? So it's on the blockchain. So when you get your bottle of wine, it'll have a QR code on the label, and you can see, through Etherscan, what the decisions were made and what decisions were made that led to the creation of this wine. So maybe that's a gimmick, but we're doing that.
So the decisions are going to be stored in eternity, right?
Eternity, right? And no one can alter them. It's, is that important? I don't know.
I also hear that your engineering team is Greek.
Yes, very excited to talk about this. So some of them are here. Marios, he's the leader of the company, and Panos here. Yes, Panos is here. Yeah, so we have several engineers here. We have a designer, QA, Scrum Master, and they're amazing. And I'm just very proud to be like part of the Greek technology scene, in this very small way.
So, any more questions?
Just one. will you be pushing for Retsina making this wine?
You tried this thing last year.
Posting, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Will you be pushing to make Retsina?
Oh, yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. First of all, I had some really good Retsina when I was like not in Greece a long time ago, and I've been obsessed with like finding really good Retsina, and everybody in Greece tells me, well, there really isn't any, but I'm continuing to search for it, so if you can tell me where to find some good Retsina, let me know. Anyway, so to answer your question, this is this crazy idea that we have. It's costing a lot of money to build, and there's a strategy behind it, which is create a platform for other wineries. Okay, so it is conceivable that there's a winery that's producing Retsina grapes. Is it a grape?
I think it's the barrel.
It's a barrel. Okay. All right. It's pretty, a winery that specializes in Retsina. We want to give them a way to go direct to the consumer. Like, this is a problem for wineries that we're hoping to solve, which is, the margins on the wine really small, because when they sell the wine, they're selling usually through a retailer that takes like 50%. This way, you're selling the wine directly to the consumer through this strange mechanism. It's a season pass, but you're also charging them for an experience, right? So it's a way for wineries to increase their margins, we think. And if there's a Retsina winery out there that wants to get on their platform, like, that's where we're headed with this.
I want to ask a question about pricing.
Yes.
So, okay, you can find really good wines here in Greece, like with 10 euros, 12 euros, whatever. Do you think the consumer would be willing to pay for this Greek engineering team and the NFTs and everything?
This is the biggest question right now that we have. So the pricing right now we have in mind is around $300 for the season pass, okay? What are you getting for $300? You're getting a really good bottle of wine. It's a premium vineyard, so it's wine that might cost $100 in a store. Okay, but I'm paying $300 for that $100 bottle of wine. Like, why would I do this? Well, you're getting this winemaking experience, and you're learning about winemaking, and you have a community. Oh, and you get reward points. Is that enough? Can't tell you, because we haven't tested the market yet. But the hypothesis here is that there are enough wine enthusiasts who have been sort of feeling like they're on the sidelines, they don't have access, and they've been waiting for some experience like this for a long time. And maybe they're crypto people or NFT people who also find the NFT part of this attractive. That's the biggest question for us right now.
I guess you can monetize it in many different ways. Like, you can create really niche premium products for people who want to buy the NFT, a vintage wine, and you can also make like the more accessible tier wines for people who want to participate in the wine process making. Because I assume that this will be taking time, right? Reading what it means to be making wine and being able to decide, make good decisions, right? So I will be spending time.
Yeah.
And I will be also buying the wine, right?
Yeah, we're charging you to work. It's funny, right? Like, we're saying, come to the vineyard and work in the vineyard, and you're going to pay us for the privilege.
Okay.
We're either crazy or we're brilliant, right? No, but you make a good point, which is, once we have different wineries, there'll be different price points, right? Maybe the Retsina wine is like, the season pass for the Retsina is only like $150 or $100. It's a startup, we're discovering more and more every day, but we don't have the answers.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Anybody has any last questions? John?
What is this bottle?
I like to stay hydrated, and it works like this. Has a filter, and this was it's made by a company that I started like 10 years ago. when I was really bored of tech, and I wanted to do something that was physical. And I started this company with a friend, and it was a rocket ship for a while, and then Amazon came along, and anybody could make water bottles in China and sell them. So eventually we sold the company, made some money, but I wouldn't get into the water bottle business if I was you.
That's not the story.
Oh, the story.
It's an actual story.
Okay, so John will tell you that the
So Paul was working at Microsoft and got bored. He's like, okay, we're going to do this guy. So let's do the best, fancier, most expensive, luxurious bottle. This bottle.
the apple of hydration.
Yeah, like I know personally, I was like, oh, let's do it, it's amazing, everything. So when we met, he gave me one as a gift, and I opened up, started reading, and I'm like, how's called this thing? How it's called?
The nipple,
The
mouthpiece.
The mouthpiece
Yes.
tastes like nipple. Just it.
Feels.
No. 100%. Crazy. So I'm like,
How would you know, John?
wait. So I'm like, So I go to my friend to the house, I'm like, try this thing. So he puts it in his mouth. Tastes like nipple. I'm like, okay. I give to my friend, do you want this? Tastes like penis. I'm like, it's super strange. So I go to him, I'm like, this isn't chance that it tastes like penis or. So, and he told me that it was 80 tested to be 50% penis, 50% nipple.
Pretty much. We had this idea of basically like creating an addictive, sort of like how social media apps addict you. Like, what can we do with a water bottle to make it addictive? And we decided there's a human biology.
Everybody is looking at me now, crazy. Fixated at this moment.
So yeah, that was one of the guiding principles we gave to the designer. Yeah. Now, I'll just say one more thing about this. We A/B tested a number of shapes and prototypes. Some of them would be X-rated. I could not show you some of those. So if you think this is bad, there were much worse ones.
And then there's an even better story, because of the first movie, on the Iron Man movie, Tony Stark tries to drink some water or whatever, and he gets one of his bottles and leaves it for 30 seconds in front of the scene, like the camera's like right there, and then BMW paid for like 5 seconds, I don't know how much money.
Yeah, so the story is, it wasn't this bottle, it was another one that we made, wound up in the movie Iron Man 1. And in the movie, Tony Stark has to drink this certain type of fluid to preserve his superpowers, and he's drinking it from one of our bottles. And of course that our sales went like crazy for several months. And yet the story about BMW it was actually Audi. They sponsored the movie. They paid $25 million for 15 seconds of screen time. We paid nothing, and we got, we were maybe like 60 seconds, and we were part of the story. It was great free publicity. So, and I will say that like we actually sort of engineered it. We got really lucky, but we kind of engineered it. So I'm proud of that. Yeah.
That's what to share the story of the nipple penis. So yeah.
If you look up, if you want to go deeper, look up Iron Man, Google Iron Man water bottle, Iron Man water bottle. You'll see the story.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.